when it comes to meal prepping, a lot of people think I'm gonna be doing like containers, chicken, broccoli, rice, measuring everything out and going through the whole 9 yards. But I kind of do lazy guys meal prepping. So I do it a little bit differently. When I do my meal prep on Sundays, I really only do it for the chicken. I only do the meat portion. Reason being, that's the most important portion. That's also typically the most expensive portion. So that's where you're gonna save all your money, is by doing your own prep with your meats. So we're gonna just focus on the meat portion, the actual chicken. And again, that's because it's the most important portion of the meal, and it's also the most expensive portion. The carbohydrate portions, if you've seen a lot of my other stuff, what I like to do is I like to use these rice packets. So I'll do these rice packets and I'll add them based on the carbohydrates that I want for the day. So though I can make those in 90 seconds. Also, if I really need to, or if I'm trying to save money, I can easily whip up some rice, and I'll just make that on a 1 or 2 cup basis. I don't, again, do it as part of the meal prep. It's just, it takes a lot longer. You have to be a lot more precise about it. And then you have to follow those macros for the day. And for me, I like to change up my macros, and I do workout versus non-workout days, and my schedule gets a little more hectic. So I'd rather have a little bit more control over my carbs and my fats and the other things. And that's why I just do the chicken, because if I have that done and already cooked, bam, I can 90 seconds have some rice. I can cut up half an avocado if I want some fats. I can put some broccoli in the microwave, bam, that'll be done no problem. So those things are so much easier to do. It's, again, the chicken that's gonna take the longest. And if you're buying chicken that's pre-cooked already, which I do sometimes, but it's gonna be a lot more expensive. So this is where we're gonna save a lot of time and a lot of money, in fact, as well. So let's talk about what we need. So what we're gonna need a big pan like this. Big pan, that's going to be what we're gonna toss in the oven in order to cook the chicken. You're gonna need some Reynolds wrap or something to partition the chicken out with. So when we weigh our chicken, we're gonna measure and weigh it raw, and then we actually need to go ahead and partition it off, because if we don't partition it off, then we're not gonna know how much chicken we have. And the difference between raw chicken and cooked chicken is a big difference. So the macros that you'll see when you buy your chicken from, so in my case, I'm buying it from Costco. It's pretty cheap. You can get it for like $2.99 a pound. So when I'm buying it from there, the macros that are on the label, you'll see here's my chicken here, it's all raw. The macros that are on here are based on raw chicken, not cooked chicken. So if you cook the chicken, you have to take into account all the water loss and the difference in how that changes things. So for example, if you cook 12 ounces of chicken, you can't, or if you weigh 12 ounces of raw chicken and then you cook it, it's gonna weigh a lot less. It might weigh, 8 ounces or so. So if it's already cooked, weighing it and then going based on the macros is going to be incorrect. Your macros are going to be wrong. So you have to weigh your food raw, then cook it, and that's how you know exactly what kind of macros you're going to be getting. So I know that's a little bit complex, and that's something not a lot of people know, but it's something that you need to take into account. Otherwise, you're going to be overeating on your food. If you think about it, if you're supposed to eat 4 ounces of chicken, but the chicken is already cooked, and then you weigh it and you weigh 4 ounces, that's really like 6 or 7 ounces of chicken, because again, the water loss that it needs to be taken into account when you're calculating your macros. So that's why it's easiest to weigh it raw and then partition it off and then put it in your little meal prep container like this, and then know exactly how much you're putting in there. So I'm gonna be doing them in 8 ounce increments. Again, if you're a female, maybe you want, or you're trying to lose a lot of weight, maybe you want to do 4 or even 6 ounces, but I'm gonna do 8. Sometimes I do 10, but today I'll be doing 8 ounce increments. So we have our pan, we have our Reynolds wrap, then we're gonna need obviously the chicken, which I already showed you. So I have a ton of chicken, which I bought from Costco. I have my plate, knife, and fork. That's gonna be what I'm gonna use to cut up the chicken, so I can make sure I'm getting the right, again, proportions, 8 ounces. I have salt and pepper in order to add a little seasoning to it, add a little spice. I have my trusty food scale. Always got to have your food scale available. And I have a bowl sitting on the food scale so I can weigh my chicken, make sure it's, again, 8 ounces. I have a thermometer to actually check the temperature of the chicken. Now, I used to not do this. I used to just put it in the oven and just cook it for like 16 minutes or whatever was recommended. and my chicken was always dry AF, man. It was dry as hell. So because the chicken was so dry and it tasted so terrible, I mean, I would still eat it, but I always hated it. So I remember the first time I went over, my girlfriend had a food thermometer, and I was over at her house and I was making some chicken and I used it, and I was like, oh my God, like, the chicken isn't so much like, it's got so much more juice in it, and it's so much more moist and like tastes so much better. So ever since then, I stopped cutting up my chicken during my meal prep. I used to do that as well, where I'd chop it up, and then that way I wouldn't have to cut it later. But again, you lose so much juice when you do that, and it dries it out a lot. So I don't do that anymore. I don't cut up my chicken ahead of time, and I now use a thermometer to make sure I cook it just enough. And when you use your thermometer for chicken, you want to cook it to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's going to be adequately cooked. Make sure that you know you're safe to eat the chicken later. All right, what else do I have here? I have a garlic press, and I have some organic garlic. I don't always do this. I don't always cook my chicken with garlic, although garlic is fantastic for you. It's unbelievable. It's so good for you. If you haven't checked out like my supplement guide or read any of my other stuff about garlic, garlic is so good for you. It was used by Roman soldiers before battle in order to inspire courage, and also obviously help their immune defense, help with sickness as well. It was given during, I think it was World War I or World War II, I can't remember. It was given as penicillin to the Russian army because they ran out of penicillin. So garlic is called Russian penicillin. But garlic is so fantastic for you. It's great for helping out your immune system. It'll help prevent colds. It'll help reduce the severity of colds, but it also helps speed the food through your system. So in that case, garlic also has what's called an anti-obesity effect. Researchers have done a lot of research on this and studies, and they've sort of claimed and said it's called the anti-obesity effect of garlic because, again, it speeds food through your system, so the food ends up not causing excessive fat storage. So when you take garlic supplements or eat a lot of garlic, it's going to help improve your body's ability to process that food through your system without storing it as body fat. So garlic is so fantastic for you in so many reasons, So I highly recommend you not only supplement with garlic, and I have my garlic supplement up here, right in here, boom, my garlic supplement. So I highly recommend you supplement with it, but also that you, as an insurance policy, add it to a lot of your foods. Now the garlic's gonna slow down this process of meal prepping a lot, but that's okay because garlic is awesome and it's gonna make your chicken taste a lot better. Another trick, you could also add garlic to your eggs. If you haven't tried that, it's really good. All right, and then I have my meal prep containers and my lids, which I'm gonna use to store the chicken. So I think I have like 7 or 8 here, and then I have a couple more if I need them. So I'll be storing the chicken in there, and I'll just be popping it in the freezer. I'll pop half in the freezer, half in the fridge. That way I can eat them throughout the week.